Hello, my lovely anatomists and physiologists. Michele Glass here. Last time we talked about how bones increase in length, and now we're going to talk about how bones increase in thickness or density. So what we're talking about here is appositional growth, which is an increase in density of the bone or thickness of the bone, density or thickness of the bone. And when we talk about appositional growth, remember your prefix a means without, and then positional. So we're not changing sort of the overall location of this bone in the body the way you would be with elongation. Instead, you're just changing, again, the density or the thickness of the bone. And this process of appositional growth involves what's called modeling. It's called modeling. And we're going to see with growth that we do get the cell types of osteoblasts and osteoclasts involved. So when we talk about appositional growth, we are going to see osteoblasts and osteoclasts involved with this process. And we didn't really talk about osteoclasts as being involved in that elongation. In the case of our modeling, this is what we're going to see happening during like the initial development of your skeleton. So we're talking about during infancy, we're talking about during toddlerhood, childhood, puberty, when we're really initially forming that skeleton. So as we increase in age and we increase in body size, we need our skeleton to increase in density as well. Now, the case of your modeling, you're going to see two things happening. You're going to see, and these probably are not in the order of like step 1, step 2. So let me just make them like bulleted points. So the osteoclasts will reabsorb old bone that's aligning the medullary cavity. That's that inside space of our long bone. That's where our yellow bone marrow is located. And then we'll see, simultaneously, the osteoblasts are going to produce new bone actually underneath the periosteum. So this is talking about that outer layer of compact bone, and we'll see that this is happening actually through intramembranous ossification. So converting membrane tissue instead of converting hyaline cartilage. And so really the key things that we see happening here is as part of this modeling, we're increasing the size of the medullary cavity. And we're increasing here the thickness or density of the compact bone. Why would we want to increase the medullary cavity? Well, the person is getting bigger, and so they need more of that fat storage space. They need more of this space also for red bone marrow, for blood cell production, hematopoiesis, because the body's getting bigger. So you're going to need more fat storage. You're going to need more blood cell formation. And so these are the characteristics of modeling. Again, remember, this is like happening during that developmental stage. But what we see is your skeleton is never like done. It never stops changing. It may stop growing in length. It definitely stops growing in length, but it's not going to stop changing based on your body needs. So this is one of the things that I find like so amazing about the human body is based on what we need our body to do. Our body can pretty much make changes and adjustments accordingly. So when we're talking about remodeling, we should think about this as happening more like in the adult or the mature skeleton. So this is talking more about the changes that are taking place, throughout our life. And what we'll see is that about 5 to 10% of the skeleton is remodeled. And I didn't write that down, but I'm going to say like annually. So I may need to make a little correction to that. Check in with your text. Okay. And then beyond that, so that's like the standard baseline amount of remodeling that's happening in the adult. But then sort of beyond that, we'll see that remodeling is going to be important if there's been an injury or if there's changes in the body activity, such as exercise. We'll look at that together here in just a minute. Let's define what we actually mean. Okay, so I actually decided to pause and double check myself, and this is correct. So we are seeing the 5 to 10% of the skeleton remodeled annually, just as a sort of a baseline. And then, of course, we'll see remodeling can occur due to injury or as a result of our physical activity. So let's go ahead and define what we mean by remodeling and how it's different from modeling. And I think what I'll do here is I'll say same surface. And that's the key feature. And we still are going to see osteoblasts forming new bone. And we'll still see the job of the osteoclast doing that process of osteolysis or breakdown of bone. And we can talk about that as reabsorption of unneeded, damaged, or old bone. So if we look back at our description of modeling, we see that modeling is a breakdown of the medullary cavity and building underneath the periosteum. And when we talk about remodeling, it's the same surface. So wherever you're breaking down bone, you're replacing it with some new bone. And so that's one of the things that's really significant. When we talk about exercise having an influence on remodeling, what we see is that mechanical stress, so this is the physical activity, working your muscles pulling on your bone, actually increases the deposition of mineral salts and collagen fibers. So basically, mechanical stress, you increase mechanical stress, you're going to increase bone density, bone formation. And so when we're exercising, we're working our cardiovascular, respiratory systems, we're working and building muscle mass, but we're also increasing our bone density. Now, here's another piece of information that wasn't really listed for us in the text, but it can be important. Changes in body size are going to clearly alter your mechanical stress. So when we talk about this, we're looking at the role of the muscle in terms of exercising the muscle and pulling on the bone, creating mechanical stress, increasing our bone density. But we can see just gaining weight, so making the body heavier, is going to ultimately put a little bit more mechanical stress on that bone, right? And so having weight gain, so a person who has a thicker body, just in general, whether it's from exercise or other sources, can have more bone density than somebody who's thin, especially somebody who's really thin or underweight and not performing a lot of exercise. What we see with this exercise too, in terms of health benefits, resistance training is actually going to be more effective than cardiovascular activities in terms of increasing your bone tissue or your bone density. So what that might look like is a little bit of weight training in with your cardiovascular activities if you are trying to help boost your bone density. All right, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for our next topic, which is looking at fracture and repair. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.